right, so you've probably seen photos like this plastered on the machines at the gym, on the internet, and so on. What they're trying to show here is that for an incline bench press, the primary tissue that you are working are these upper bits of your pec up here, and the secondary tissues that you are working are the rest of your pec, your anterior delt, and it's part of your tricep. Now, we know that force is the language of cells, and we know that the connective tissues, your body's connective tissues, including your muscles, are made up of those cells. So if we are trying to stimulate a change in our muscles or in those tissues, whether it be an increase in strength, tissue capacity, building mass, or so on, we must then communicate with the cells that make up those tissues, and we do that via force. So what they're really showing here is that for an incline bench press, because of your body position, your orientation, and the movement that you are doing, you are primarily speaking to these upper bits of your pec here, and you're still speaking to, but to a lesser extent, the rest of your pec, your anterior delt, and this part of your tricep. Now, what I want you to see and appreciate is if we look at our lovely little cadaver man here, and I zoom in on his pec, what you can see is that his pec is made up of all of these different lines of tissue running in slightly different directions. Therefore, each line of tissue has a slightly different line of pull. Now, if we go one step further here and we get rid of everything else, what you can also see and appreciate is that as we get closer to the tendon, the tissue actually begins to spiral, such that the fibers that were on the top end up on the bottom, and the fibers that were on the bottom then end up on the top, which then further changes the line of pull for those tissues. So if you are trying to strengthen and grow or build mass in, say, your full pec muscle, but you find yourself doing the same exercises in the same positions, doing the same movements all the time, you may actually be screaming at certain lines of tissue, and you may benefit from introducing more variability to the system and to your training, such that you are speaking loud and clear to all of these tissues that make up your pec. Now, one thing that I just want to touch on, which can be confusing when you're watching something like this or just looking at an anatomy textbook or even this app, is that it looks like your pec just kind of ends here and it ends here, and it is just what is dictated in yellow. And it is true in that that's what we call your pec muscle or your pectoralis major. However, when you are putting force through these tissues, it does not just stop where these yellow lines end, and rather it is felt by the other tissues as well, just felt to a lesser extent. So you just want to be mindful of when you're doing movements, when you're doing exercise, what tissues are you primarily speaking to when you are doing it. So that's something I want you to think about and chew on when looking at your own training. I will sometime here soon make a post on how you can start to gain more access to tissues so that you can further grow them as well.